the government spending plan isn't a plan, it's a warning. It's a warning. The issue is clear, like 486 billion in spending, no budget, no roadmap, just hope in your tax dollars. Like when we think regarding what we do with the infinite banking concept, like if you just read that headline, like you can't plan your future on their lack of a future. Infinite banking provides us with that peaceful, stress-free way of life and a very predictable financial foundation because we are the plan. We're not having to lay awake at night worrying about more tax grabs that are definitely coming.
Well, I mean, it's not that I'm not worried about it. I'm still worried about it. I'm just not worried about it from a perspective of being impacted by it the same degree as
Right.
I think a lot of other people were. I mean, you always worry about your fellow man, your fellow people, like the people that you love and care about. And additionally, it's alarming and very unsettling to consider what are the unintended consequences? What is the impact of this over a long period of time? And the idea is that they're going to try to quote unquote spur certain elements of the economic machine of the country by randomly throwing money at it. I'm like, well, that is just a Keynesian model of thinking about the world. And that the result of that behavior is we're just going to load right back up into the boom bust cycle of scenarios. And some people are going to be, at different phases of that bust, depending on how it comes about. And it just is nonsensible to consider that we're walking into this particular government with massive challenges, massive amounts of government debt, massive amounts of interest accruing on that debt with no real methodology of being able to properly deal with it. And we're just going to throw money randomly at some stuff and that's going to fix it. I just don't see the rationale on how that's going to be an effective model. And so here's the thing. The government doesn't have any money. It doesn't have anything. The only thing it has is your social insurance number or your social security number in the United States. It has a method of being able to basically take your money and use it to pay for all their crap. So they're trying to justify that the crap that they're doing is actually for you and your benefit. Sure, some of it is. And some of it does actually benefit you. But does all of it benefit you? I would submit that it does not. And if you take the chains off and you just let them run willy-nilly doing whatever they want, the likelihood that there's going to be some damage is very much, it's like taking a buffalo herd and just saying, we could, herd you and corral you down one particular zone so that we can end up, directing you somewhere, or we can just be all willy-nilly and random and create chaos. And so if you don't manage that and the herd is going and there's a stampede, and then all of a sudden your barn or your house is in the way, well, they're just going to go right through it. Like they're not going to stop. Some will go around, but eventually the whole herd's going to come. It's just going to blow right through the house. So like in that model of thinking, there's no control mechanisms over the way that all this capital is going to be spent.
I agree. Another issue that came up as a result of this announcement is, they floated a capital gains overhaul. And so if they're willing to test
nobody saw that coming, Jay.
If they're willing to test that, nothing's off limits. And so again, I'm trying to tie in the infinite banking concept as it relates to the issues that I personally identified from this announcement. And when you think of the tool that's used to implement the infinite banking concept, you're dealing with a dividend-paying life insurance contract, ideally from a reputable mutual company. You've got cash value that is growing daily, that is uninterrupted. You're in a tax-advantaged contract. You control it. You're no longer a sitting duck in the government's game of what can we tax next? And so I tried to think through this logically around, okay, what are the specific issues? Why is the infinite banking concept, why does it remain an advantage? Here's another one, and it applies to whether it's the IRS or Revenue Canada. They demand perfection while they write IOUs. You miss a payment, penalties. They blow billions, they shrug it off. How does that sit with you?
It's
And
not even remotely hypocritical. Like
yeah, it's unreal. Yet with, the infinite banking concept, you get to build a warehouse of wealth that makes you less dependent on traditional taxable, unpredictable government rules. And you can't, so you can't fight the government with complaints, but you can definitely build a system that makes you far less dependent. And that matters. That I think that matters more than ever in the environment that we're in.
there's uh there's a lot of reasons to be concerned. Again, concern and fear are two different things. Like I think you can have concern and not be fearful, and fear doesn't. Future events appearing real. That's my acronym for fear. There's several other ones, and because you can't fear something in the past, it's already happened.
Right.
You can fear a future thing because it is about to happen or it could happen, but usually the fear is driven from your mental recollection of something in the past that had a similar outcome or an experience. So that, yeah, there might be reasons to have fear, but I think more so concern, and because if we address concern we can minimize fear. And so there's also going to be opportunity. And so where are the strategies to turn this, uh call it a nuclear financial bomb that the Canadian government has decided they wanted to drop on everyone today, and where are we going to be able to create opportunities within it? So Jason, you and I aren't going to fly down to Ottawa and knock on some doors and just magically change this decision that's happened today. Like it's not going to work. So instead, we say, okay, we can't correct or modify or change it. We might consider how we might maybe look at our vote the next time it happens. So that's the only real actionable item that we can do in relative to you know changing future elements. But what we can say is based on what's happening, what are some potential areas or theoretical zones where we might see economic uptick? We might see some great potential that exists. And so let's go through some of the fine line items of what they outlaid they're going to do. Okay, so what industries might be impacted? What geographic locations might be impacted? Um, do we want to rebalance our investment portfolio? Do we want to think about dividend paying stocks that we have? So like, what are all these different elements that we can say, let's take a rational view at this, and how can we position ourselves to be in the best financial climate despite whatever shenanigans they've got going on over there in Ottawa?
Yeah, it's so true. And man, I think of again, I just think logically. The government will chase you down for missing $142 tax payment, but then they say, "Hey, look, let's commit to spending a $500 billion, and we'll figure the rest out later." Like liquidity, what comes up for me is liquidity, right? And most North Americans have very little liquidity or any at all. Like if you think of tax qualified plans, whether it's a 401k, RRSP up in Canada, real estate, mutual funds, liquidity is locked up and it's taxed on the way out. And it's tied to economic or market volatility or political turmoil. But yet, the infinite banking concept tie in is that in our system and our clients, they get ready access to capital at any time on their terms without interrupting the daily growth of their cash value. It's a system that they own, that they control. And what came to mind for me is, and this could be an article or even a small book that we end up writing. Liquidity without compromise. That's the phrase that comes up for me. Liquidity without compromise. And the folks in North America that we're blessed to serve each and every day, they really truly value that. And announcements like the one that came out today regarding the Canadian government is just it's completely asinine. And
Well, there's lots of so there's the big aspect of it, the overarching aspect, and then there's like, not that it's granular, but dissecting some of the components. I mean, there's one that stands out to me as completely baffling. Like I just don't fathom and understand, and that's a promise to continue to boost funding, increase funding
yeah,
to the CBC up to $150 million a year. I mean, I nothing against the CBC. Don't get me wrong. There's some programming that I used to watch when I was young, and And I'm sure they probably still have some great stuff now, although I don't believe I watch any of it. What to what degree do we need to subsidize the marketplace of things like the news and Canadian programming? Like if Canadian programming can't survive because it's so amazingly unique, but we need it to maintain our identity somehow. Like,
Yeah.
well, shouldn't it be able to do that on its own merit? Like the free market is telling you that this content isn't good enough to be able to support itself, right? Like there's thousands of different networks and television stations and whatever down in the United States, and in Canada, yeah, we've got less, and we watch. Why do we know so much about our American counterparts? Is because we watch all of their programming, right? And that's why we're effectively very similar in nature between the two nations. But Canada's own, broadcasting corporation, it's in my opinion, it's spitting on an awful lot of drivel and wasted energy and effort. So like, why are we supporting that initiative? The free market has spoken and said it does no longer need to exist. If it did, it would be able to support itself.